Welcome to Orchestrating Impact, stories from the heart of New Jersey Symphony. I'm your host, Jamara Wakefield. In this transformative podcast, we dive into the profound intersection of music and community connections, delving deep into the heart of the New Jersey Symphony's mission. Join me on a captivating journey as we unravel the untold stories of those whose lives have been touched by the symphony's work. I'll be joined by Sharon Salvador, Director of Development and Board Liaison, as well as Richard Marshall, Director of Program Operations from the Newark School of the Arts. They'll discuss the NSA's mission to transform the lives of youth and families through quality education in the performing and visual arts, and how the New Jersey Symphony collaborates seamlessly to support this endeavor. Please enjoy this amazing conversation with Sharon Salvador and Richard Marshall. Sharon and Richard, it's so good to spend some time with you. Thank you so much for being here.
For having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Now, you both are from Newark, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me some of your earliest memories of growing up in Newark?
Sure. I moved to Newark when I was around 8 years old. I was coming from the Bronx. I moved to North Newark. I went to Roberto Clemente for a little bit. So it's a very Latin kind of district of Newark, right? But I was also coming from the Bronx. So it felt very similar in that aspect. I could get all of my favorite foods. And as soon as you go to another ward, you go to Central Ward, and it's a whole different kind of experience. You go to East Ward, and it's a whole different experience. And I thought that was so cool because it was like down the street. You know, I go to school with some of these kids, and I go to his house, my friend's house. And I thought that was really cool. And, you know, the NJ Pack was coming up when I was in school. So that was, like, it had just been built, you know,
Wow.
like a little bit before that. And
Right.
that was like a whole thing. So I was just loving everything. It felt more city-ish than kind of being in the Bronx where I was at the time. And also I was very young, so I was only exposed to so much. But I instantly fell in love with Newark. This is my home.
I as well. I was about 8 years old when I came to Newark. It was from the Bronx as well. Lived on Davidson and Fordham Road. And I thought Newark was the capital of New Jersey. It was the largest city in the state. I didn't know any better. And it was just so big for me. And my family was here in Newark. We moved from Davidson, Fordham, over to Springdale Avenue, went to First Avenue School. We would walk to school every morning. And I would stop along the way at my neighbor's house, who was also in my class. So we would stop at her house, we'd have breakfast at her house, and then we'd keep on going to go to school. So those were my memories, my early memories of Newark. It's just a large space, just large, big city.
Large, big, diverse.
Mm-hmm. Diverse.
And do you remember your first contact with the arts or arts programming?
I remember in Roberto Clemente, there was a song that we had to sing in English and in Spanish about Roberto Clemente. And then we did the flag salute in English and in Spanish. Like, it was very ingrained into like the school culture to be bilingual and to learn it, even wherever you had come from, which I thought was a good, looking back and through my educational lens, was a great idea. Because also the development of you singing and things like that, singing in other languages helps you develop certain brain centers, and there's a whole bunch of stuff behind that. But that kind of introduced me to singing. Later on, I went to Newark Boys Chorus, and that kind of, you know, took me off from there. And that's where my arts journey kind of started.
What was that like, the chorus?
Newark Boys Chorus, transformational. It was the most, it's the thing that stands out the most out of my whole schooling, aside from college and maybe high school. But we went to South Africa when I was there. And we were there for quite a while. We didn't go there for like a weekend. We were gone for like a long time, you know, and then just the unity of like having all these Black and brown boys from the city of Newark traveling together with our concert master, the headmaster, and just sticking together. And I learned a lot about representing the city, representing myself, representing my culture, you know, being a man, and just kind of growing up from like a boy, you know, tucking your shirt, look presentable, speak to people like this, look them in the eye. These little things that you get from like a dad. So this guy was her dad figure, like a really good figure. And I learned it just, and then the singing, obviously, and then the experience of being in Africa. It was just like a whole, this little kid from Newark just got to go to South Africa. So when I tell people this story, they're like, what? You went to South Africa for singing? Yeah, it was like that. And only through, the boys chorus that happened.
It sounds like a full package for, the transformative power of music,
Yeah.
Right? Life experience, community, mentorship, teachers, new experiences, new worlds, really. I love that. Sharon, what comes to mind when you think about the arts in your formative years?
For me, it was the community connections that we had. Particularly here in Newark, we have, the different parades and the organizations that put together the parades. And so as part of the series of events that lead up to the parade, the beauty pageants, the cultural dancing, the appreciation of food, all those activities I was a part of. So being able to forget a little bit about academics and enjoy the cultural aspect of my own culture and other countries, other in the Latin American countries, was appreciated, but very much appreciated.
And where's your family from?
My family's from Dominican Republic.
I was like, go on, give them a little shout out.
Dominicanos.
I love that. Can you each of you talk about the work that you do now and help us make some connections from those early experiences to how you show up as an advocate in the arts community here in Newark?
For sure. So my proper title now is the Director of Program Operations at the Newark School of the Arts. And part of this work is I'm in charge of the outreach. I also do marketing and advertising for the school. And I also help set up programmings in-house and off-site. So with all of that, I have a very operational mindset. That's also my schooling from NJIT. So I learned to think in a particular way and do spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. But coming up in Newark, I went to NJIT for engineering, so I did a little bit of that work, and then I got into teaching, and then I got back into the arts. So, like as I explained earlier, from starting at boys chorus to, I played instruments at St. Philip's. I was in an instrumental program there. I moved out of Newark in high school. I went to Union High School, but as we said before we started, I was in musicals and did a lot of musical theater then. And then from there, I discovered dance, and I still dance to this day. I've been dancing for 20 years. Which is this whole thing by itself. It's a huge part of my life. And being that I've always been a dance teacher for this long and all of the things that I do, even when I was doing engineering, I was dancing. So when I got to the Newark School of the Arts, I literally walked in as a dance teacher. I was a teaching artist at first, but I had all this professional experience doing other things. And the more that the school learned about me, the more I learned about the school and led me into the seat that I'm in now. And my story, I'm so appreciative every day because I get to do something that I love. I get to work with other teaching artists and things like this, create opportunities. I understand what it's like to be the teaching artist on that sense, and I understand what it's like to be the student. And also, I'm a dad now. I have a son who's also into the arts. And so I kind of have the perspective of all the, the different people that are going to be involved in all of this. And it gives me a lot of insight every day. So I'm just really grateful to be where I am now and happy that it's in my city too.
Right. My proper title now at Newark School of the Arts is Director of Development and Liaison to the Board of Directors. Being an advocate of the arts, as I used to do development, I've been in development for about 25 years now, and fundraising and doing events, grant writing. It brings about a full circle experience for me being back in the arts now, where I've always had business mindset brought into the arts now. I worked at Newark Arts, who used to be the Newark's Council of the Arts. Mm. And so being back in the arts industry just makes me appreciate the arts a little more. Being in the industry a little deeper with my peers, it always brings about this remembrance and respect for the arts. So that's how I feel like I can advocate for the students and the benefits that it brought me as a student and be able to garner some support, not just financial support, but just support for the arts in general. There's a lot of transition now in policies and legislature about the arts. And so this is our time to kind of galvanize the support for the arts. So it's a full circle experience for me.
I imagine working in development, you think about community in a very different way because you have to be in contact with people and other organizations like the symphony. Can you talk to me about that collaborative process and what that is like? Because I imagine, but you tell me, for you, it's your organization, but also the way your organization touches all of these other organizations and communities and aspects of Newark. So can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure. It's a web, to be honest. It's more than just connections these days. We're creating a web of support through not just arts education, the symphony, their symphony hall, all these different institutions, anchor institutions. Newark is a historically arts city. All these partnerships and all this galvanizing of support for the arts starts there. It starts in collaboration. And so my perspective of community is a little broader than just talking about Newark School of the Arts, right? So I hope I've answered your question.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And when did you know that this was the work that you needed to be doing?
Back in 2015 or so, I want to say, my niece was maybe 3 years old. And, the way we teach her is through song. The arts is what kind of brought us up in our house. And so it's inculcated in us, in our culture, to be able to appreciate the arts and be able to articulate ourselves in singing and dancing and physical expression. So that was the inspiration. And I felt like being back in the arts, in Newark School of the Arts, was just coming home. I was able to bring them into the summer intensives, and they had a blast. And so that experience was just full circle for me.
Do you remember any of those songs? Just asking.
One is, we were dancing and it's like, dale la batidora, dale la batidora. It's simple, but it helps with the coordination and just cognitive aspect of the dance. And it's just you're in a blender.
In a blender, I love that. In a blender. And how do you think that your heritage enhances your work and your leadership in this space?
The fact that I'm bilingual is a benefit. Being able to communicate with the communities that we serve. We serve a large population of Hispanics and Latinos in the community. Being able to connect with them in my own language makes them feel at home, and it makes me feel at home too.
And I think home is the goal.
Yes.
Right.
Making everyone feel at home, comfortable. They're able to leave their children with us. And that trust factor is that much more enhanced when you can speak that same language.
Absolutely. Now, Richard, you talked about dance, but correct me, didn't you study chemical engineering? So can you talk to me about the connection between chemical engineering and dance and how you've reconciled that as two spaces that you were really interested in?
Right. So it's a funny story. It's very left brain, right brain kind of thing, right? I never really thought of myself as an artist, even though I told you I started a boys choir and I played instruments. I was in band. In high school, I was in theater. I was a theater major and then musical theater. And part of musical theater is that you had to learn how to dance. So mind you, I didn't mention dance once. From K to 12, we did West Side Story, and the choreographer was a break dancer, and they were like, "You have to learn these things to be a shark." I was a shark. That was my role, and I was like, "This is really hard." And Richard liked to do really hard things, and I started hanging out with the choreographer. My friends, we all got into it and things like this. And what happened was, for college, I wanted to be a music teacher or a dance teacher or something like this. Not dance teacher, actually, music teacher. And my music teacher said, "Listen, you're in AP Physics. Like, you're a smart kid. You should, pursue science. I know that you really like it. And then maybe minor in music." Not the worst advice. Some people say, "Oh, they crush your dreams." It wasn't like that. It was fine. And I trusted my music teacher completely. So, and then engineering is one of the hardest things you could do. And Richard likes to do hard things. And I wanted to stay local as well. And I went to NJIT. NJIT was an experience. Engineering school is very hard for anyone. You can ask anyone there who's even any kind of engineering. They also do it as an architecture school and a good management program. But while I was at NJIT, I had just started dancing. So I just started college and I just started dancing. And it was a tug of war. The coursework was very rigorous and things like this. I didn't have time to dance like I wanted to. So while I was at school, I had a mentor who his name was Will Chang. He also breakdanced and he was in grad school. And he said, listen, this is how you study and this is how you practice. And you have to figure out your balance, right? Because otherwise you won't make it in one of those two things. It's hard to kind of have those things on your plate. So, I got it together. I continued to dance. I did little dance classes, little shows here and there, kind of developed my art like that while I was in engineering school. And then so after I finished, and then I did interns and things like this, engineering was really tough and exhausting. The hours are long. The commute actually was probably the worst part about it. I was just telling Sharon, I worked in the city for a while. I worked down in Linden for a little bit at a plant. It was good, and the money is very good, of course, because it is engineering. But I was losing my art. I was losing that connection, and also there was a family issue going on at the time, and that means a lot to me. So instead of moving to California or to Texas, I had opportunities there. I stayed in New Jersey and I started teaching. And through education, I was a science teacher. And through education, I was able to still have my art, still be close to my family, and kind of have all these things, still stay in my city. And that kind of just all lined up for me. It just, opportunities kept opening up over here. And it's just, everything's just been working. And I'm very grateful for my engineering background because it's allowed me to step into any role. Like, engineers can do anything. I believe, like, people say it and it's kind of funny, but I think it's just a kind of a mindset on how you approach problem solving. I think it gives me an edge. And even when I was undergrad, I used to draw something called a free body diagram to analyze the physics of like the dance moves. It's a very nerdy thing now to say that out loud. You're looking at me like, what does that even mean? But it's, we spin on our heads and do these kind of things. And, there's momentum and all of these kind of forces at play. So I think it's kind of cool to go into that.
Well, it sounds like there were some very important life lessons that you were learning. And Sharon, I think this is really interesting as an anecdote or an example because you have a very accomplished cohort of alum who've come through the Newark School for the Arts, right? Does everyone need to be Savion Glover or Keisha Knight Pulliam? Maybe you can be an engineer and also still be a dancer. So how do you balance that internally as far as your mission? The highest excellence in terms of skill and practitioners and teachers. But it's also okay if maybe someone doesn't become a drummer. Like, how do you balance that?
I think what we ideally want is excellence in anything you do, whether it is the arts, whether it is not the arts and academics, or whatever medium it is that you're going to express yourself in your best. That's what I feel we are mission to do. No matter what discipline anyone wants to participate in, that they just be their best. So we equip them with the best skills that they can get through the arts, through musicianship, through dance, through visual arts, media lab, technology, whatever that passion is for you to do your best. And so can you be another Savion Glover? Maybe not. There's only one of those. But you can certainly accomplish a lot if you are at your best and if you're right. So that's where I feel like our mission is able to guide our students. A lot of our students in academics don't get the support that we perhaps supplement. So that also benefits them in any way that they need. They get support at home. We give support to the parents. We give support to the teachers so that they have a well-rounded, holistic approach in being able to express themselves.
That's lovely. And then what overlap have you seen in your role with Newark School of the Arts and the symphony? Similarities, overlap? Just talk to me a little bit about that connection.
Sure. So our director, executive director, was a former director of the symphony. And so our relationship goes back way long ago. And so he'll be able to tell you better stories than I can. But being able to have the children be at the forefront and our collaborations being able to support the students. So there's just an intertwining of support. Would you add to that?
Yeah, no, for sure. Especially when it comes to the programs. So I deal with a lot with the programs, and yeah, I have them on speed dial. they're on my MySpace top 5, right? It's like that. Symphony is just one of the first things that come to mind when a student's speaking to you. Whatever they're trying to do. There's oftentimes I'm at places, I'm meeting families and students and things like that, and I feel it like, yeah, I have a job description and all that, but I feel my personal charge is like, get you what you need. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, a student, even an administrator, right? So if you're a student and you're interested in strings, or if you're a family member and you want to see a concert, whatever, falls into that spectrum, I can probably have some kind of connection for you. And a lot of that comes through like partnership with the symphony. So it's really valuable.
What sort of resilience does that sort of partnership give your organization and really the arts community in Newark? How does it help sustain it?
So for sure. So definitely the symphony and Newark School of the Arts. It's like two anchor institutions who are coming together to support the pillars of art, right? So in doing so, we together are able to bring about support, not just infrastructure for the business side of the arts, but also the arts for the students, the education aspect. Where we lack, they may be able to supplement. So I think that in itself is very complementary. The resilience comes about when COVID came around and we had to kind of shut down classes. We brought about media arts, technology arts. And so that birthed a whole new area for us. And symphony was able to plug into that as well. So I think that it's a two-way byway, highway of resources for everyone.
No, it's really good. Yeah. Another thing that came to mind is that, Newark School of the Arts, we do more than just music, right? So whenever the symphony needs something that isn't music, we're the first ones to call. We're having an exhibit. We need some students. Do you have any students that do art? Do you have any students that can do a drama piece or spoken word thing or something like this? We say, for sure, we definitely have a thing. Okay, we have these string players. Do you have singers? Okay, yeah, we have a singer. And then it's kind of like plugging those pieces together, and it makes things just so convenient. Where you don't have to like sweat and think. You have to think up this whole production. You have to make a Hamilton from scratch, right? So you don't have to do one of those kind of things. Whereas if you're working with your partners and like Sharon mentioned, we're trying to just strengthen the district, the arts district, or like the arts core, especially of Newark. And with the symphony, it just makes it so easy to do that.
It made me think of the production that we did for hip hop in collaboration with Newark Arts for the Arts Festival here in Newark. We did a strings and stanzas where we did fusion music between classical and hip hop, and we used symphonies, orchestra to be able to collaborate with some of our students on the piano, on the violin, on a flute. I mean, it was an explosion of art, and it was just so captivating that I think it was one of the highest rated events for the festival at the Newark Museum. So the students did artwork, and so they had the exhibit in the museum. It was a full 360.
How's this work impacting your lives?
It's enriching mine. The networks of individuals that I normally would not have been, I would have met, I'm either interacting with again through the arts, or individuals who didn't know me, but I knew them. And so it's bringing about additional connections, and it's impacting my work. It's impacting my network, even my schoolwork. I mean, everything in my life is pretty much touched by this school.
Yeah. In my role, I've grown so much. So, like I said, I started as a teaching artist, and then I was an assistant to development, and then I was an assistant to programs, and until the role that I got now. So, for mine was skill building, because I completely switched industries from engineering, right? So, this is a completely different kind of wheelhouse that that came natural to me, to be honest, because I'm right in the arts and I'm right at home as well. I'm going to schools that I used to go to where I used to sit in those seats. So, and I'm meeting teachers. And I worked in schools. So I'm right. It's out of my wheelhouse, but it isn't at the same time. I feel like I'm right where I should be. In my personal life, like I mentioned, I still dance. And I meet with teaching artists. I get to hire my friends for some of these things, or meet new friends that are artists, singers, dancers, performing artists and things like that. And like, hey, I know you're a great artist. You're going to be home for a while, or maybe you're trying to branch into something else. How would you like to be a teaching artist? We can get you into a classroom. We can show you. We can assist you in order to share your art and spread it throughout, the city, or to different programs and age groups. And like I said, it's about connecting them to what they need. So it's like, I think I want to do that, but I don't have a lot of time. I could do an hour a week. That's perfect. That's perfect. So I could set you up with a program, because I have some students who really adore you, and would love to learn what you have to give, which is directly coming from my mouth, because that's what I know I like to do. So I understand what it's like to have passion and to spread passion. I think that's one of the most magical things you can do.
The magic. That's the part that I'm really interested in right now, because I don't want to oversimplify this, right? Arts funding is always being cut, always being threatened, right? We've just come through a pandemic where we're dealing with circumstances and isolation like never before. Newark is a beautiful city, a global source for music, classical, jazz, house music, R&B. It's all come out of here, right? And arts administration is hard work, right? So what are the moments where, can you tell me a story about a time when you knew that you knew that you knew you had an impact, and it kind of made all the other stuff okay for that day, for that moment? Do you get where I'm going with this?
Jace, right? One of our students. I was able to introduce him to the board chair of our school. And he was in awe of her, because he didn't think that, he got to see an alum from the school who is now the board chair. And an American woman, Jace, is now on Broadway. And she was in awe of him and his arc of performance and his success within the school. And that moment when they shook hands, I kind of saw the impact that it had on him and that it had on her. And the mom and I were kind of observing. And that impacted me in a way that it came home. It hit my heart, because, wow, I would love that to be my niece one day, saying, oh, I'm development one day. They were in their office. So that just really touched me. And that magic is something that is worthwhile, whether we're doing it on a shoestring budget, whether we're doing it on a Hollywood budget. We got to do this. We have to. And we know that the value of the arts and the impact in the arts is not just therapeutic, it's healing. There's healing through the arts. It's transformative, to the point where, though some of the funding did get cut, we're still pushing for more advocacy. And I think that's the new frontier that we as a collective have to come together on and bring about that magic and spread it out a little further.
I have a couple of things that came to mind, but think about this one student that I've had. He's been going to school before I got there, but he was in my dance class when I first started. When I first had a dance class at the North School of the Arts, and he was special needs. And so we had a one-on-one because special needs students, they don't have the classes. And we typically sometimes will have them in the class, or it depends on the parent or with the IEP diagnosis. So he was in my dance class. He was maybe around 6 years old at the time. And all the other teachers were having such a hard time with him. But in my dance class, that kid would get down. And then we're breakdancing. So I told him the first day, in my class, it's okay to roll on the floor. That's what we do. That roll on the floor is our thing. So he would roll and he would kick and he learned these things. And to watch this kid develop and start to do the moves and learn techniques and things like this and learn rhythm. He had really good rhythm. He was also in drumming class. He got better at drumming class. He got better at school. He got better on the piano. And to this day, I still have him. He's not in my dance class anymore, but I still see him because now I'm an administrator. I don't teach the class anymore, but I see him take all the other classes and he's doing so much better. He's doing so much better. And every time I see him, I choke up a little bit because he's just like, hey, Mr. Ridge, how you doing? Like this and that. And I'm like, you've come such a long way. You don't know. And I just think about how his mother approached me before we even had class. She said, listen, my son, he suffers from this. He's having a hard time and this and that. So please, bear with him and this and that. I was like, don't worry, we're in dance class. Those rules don't count in my dance class. That's what we don't do that here, He'll be just fine. And we put on music and we did our thing. But seeing him now, how much he's excelling, how much he's becoming like a person, and that he's developed by channeling through the arts, and it helped ground him. I feel like having those spaces in the arts is a transformative thing. It's a healing thing. No matter where you're coming from, no matter where you're starting from. At any starting point, I don't know. Those are those moments where I'm like, yeah, this is what I should be doing. I need to do more of this.
Sharon, what's the call to action? So I'm a listener, I'm a community member, I'm a parent, I'm a teacher. What is at stake? And what can we do so that we don't have to think about those stakes in the future?
Right. Support, no matter how you support. Whether it's with your presence, whether it's with your financials, whether it's in kind, we're able to provide students with scholarships through our events and musicals, our fundraising events, some of our partnerships, whether it's also just being there and supporting. The call to action would be to also support the arts in legislature. There's a lot of advocacy going on, and just sharing your voice and speaking up and saying how great the arts is enough for us, because the larger dollars are at stake. We here are a local community school. Symphony is a national organization, but with a bigger budget. But we collaborate in such ways that we're impacting on the local level. And so on the local level is our direct impact in the community. So just be a part of the community.
Yeah. I was thinking earlier when you were speaking about something with the students, but I think about when I was in school, all of my honors classes, we would have honors, math or something, 12th period. All those same kids were in band. All those same kids were in theater. It's the same group. It's not, there's a correlation there. It's been studied, there's power in the arts besides just like even right now with the social and emotional change in the schools. I don't know if you've been in the school recently, but the students act different than they did, 5-6 years ago. There's just a different temperature, a different vibe in the schools and things like that. So, and a lot of families not sure what to do. The kids are on the iPads, the kids are, online and things like this. Put an instrument in their hand, put an instrument in their hand. Let them learn how to do hard things. Because part of the arts is that training, right? You're only with your professor or with your teacher for maybe 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, or something like that. The rest is on you. You have to go home, you have to practice, and you learn that discipline, and that directly translates into your schoolwork. It directly translates into your work ethic. It goes to so many other facets of your life that the power of the arts is just so real that more people should just be talking about it. Like, When you're out and you're watching a basketball game, sure, okay, but let's go to the museum too. Let's go see the symphony. Let's go to the NJ Packs and the Prudential Centers. These experiences, and a lot of students, and I do the surveys as well. I survey students, so I have a lot of these analytics in my head. But a lot of these students, once they're exposed to at least like one arts experience, it changes their lives. Like just the one arts experience, seeing even figure skating, Disney on Ice, something like this. So spreading the word.
Yes, and we're impacting more than just students. We're impacting adults and senior citizens with our creative aging programming, the early childhood music program, babies. So it's about just exposing students to the arts and having that impact.
Sharon, I'm going to ask you this to do something very impromptu. Can you just translate that into Spanish? I think about the fact that we're sitting here under the privilege of English, right? But what if someone's listening to this and they speak Spanish? Or what if a young person and they want their parent to take a class? So would you mind sharing that call to action in Spanish?
Sure. Estamos haciendo un llamado para poder traer las artes y las bellas artes a las familias. Estamos buscando su apoyo para su participación en las artes. Nuestra escuela, Newark School of the Arts, y el Newark Symphony, estamos en un podcast grabando y estamos aquí. Puedes contactarnos al 973-642-0133 en Newark School of the Arts. Pueden llamar y participar en cualquier forma de arte. Estamos trabajando con niños de edades de 3 meses hasta adultos en nuestras clases de edades 55 para arriba. Les apreciamos su apoyo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's so important because when we think about the arts and we think about music and dance and theater, it brings us as participants and as audience members and community members into one language, right? The beat of a song, right? The rhythm of a dance, it brings us into one language. And I'm just in awe of the work the both of you are doing to help facilitate, one, not only caring for our most precious community members, right? Like our young people, our children, our seniors, our adults, right? But you are bringing into a space where people can be one and unified and feel whole and healed and healthy. And I'm just so thankful to spend some time with both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Residents of the greater Newark community can attend New Jersey Symphony concerts and sit in the best available seats for only $25. Come home to your New Jersey Symphony. For concert details and tickets, visit njsymphony.org/Newark Neighbor. Orchestrating Impact, Stories from the Heart of New Jersey Symphony was produced by New Jersey Symphony and ABF Creative. The New Jersey Symphony team includes Marshall Jones-Kumaha, Greta Polsky, and Jeff Anderson. The team from ABF includes Wanda Reynolds, Anthony Frazier, Mike Biseglia, Rondell Patterson, and Misty Avenger. Video lead by Audio Ash. I'm Jamar Wakefield. Thank you for watching and listening.